So to make it just a little bit easier and not to put the mark too high, Jesus says, do not worry. We hear it overall. The sermon title is Worry Less, not Don't Worry. So we don't want to set ourselves up for failure right from the beginning. But we tend to worry, don't we? And as Alex pointed out, children's message, different ages, different situations, but worries are there. I know from students often worrying about tests, worrying about grades, being really concerned about being doing the good work. So that's part of them. What are some of the concerns, some of your worries? What do you worry about? Okay. Well, we can come back to that. It's hard to... Someone said, one of the greatest gifts we can give ourselves and others is if we listen and when we share what we're concerned about. So just listening and sharing with an open heart makes all the difference in the world. Now, one of the big worries, or one of the almost number one fear when you do a survey is public speaking. Like, ask you, come up front here and make a speech. Ooh. I tell you what, I have stage fright every single Sunday before every single message. I still do, and I think like every single freaking Sunday I'm here and dealing with it. And usually it eases off once I start it and once I'm in conversation, and then, okay. And then it helps also know that it's you with whom we meditate and speak and listen together, and that we are a beloved community. But yes, that's one of the things. So what can we do? Well, some of you have done coaching and training and so on, so rather than run from your worries, it's called exposure therapy. So you take it in small doses. You don't run and never do it, but okay, I do it a little bit more, and then you become more comfortable. The worry or the concern or the fear or the phobia may never go fully away, but it doesn't keep you from actually doing it and giving it a try. There's this beautiful saying. Is it Anne Lamott who said, courage is fear that said its prayers? So courage is, it's not without the fear. We don't live without worries. But what do we do with our worries and with our concerns? Another situation from my life, often I'm doing a lot of preparing and planning and thinking and writing and so on. And sometimes, believe it or not, I feel stuck. I'm sitting for another hour there, and it's just not coming, it's just not flowing, just not moving. And then I sit for another hour. And then after the end of the second hour, I think like, why the heck are you still sitting here? Go for a walk, Dietmar. And I should have gone for a walk, probably 30 minutes being into being stuck or not moving or just being. Sometimes just, get up, go for a walk. And I always feel better after I have been walking by the river and being outside. And when Jesus says, look at the birds, look at the lilies, it's just being outdoors. I sense a freedom. I sense that my soul is more at peace and freer when I'm outdoors. And I think there is something about looking at the clouds, seeing the river flow, the changing of the seasons. It's all way more peaceful, way more grounded, and getting away and getting out of that feeling stuck, going for a walk that helps me. what helps you when you are kind of stuck, or when you feel like you worry too much, or where you feel like, I don't know what to do about that? Sometimes I think it helps put things into perspective. Like when I think of, I'm running out of juice on my phone. It's a big deal for some people, running out of juice. We were on a subway in New York City. I was the guide, and we had to come back, and I had all the travel plans on my phone, and I saw it running low, running low, running low. I felt like, yikes, we'll be stuck on that subway and don't know how to get back to the Cathedral of St. John the Divine. So it's kind of, what do we do then? Well, if we look at it in perspective, think of, well, does this really matter a week from now, or a month from now, or in a year from now? And we think like, well, I think it's not that important in the big scheme. Or as someone said, don't sweat the small stuff. And most stuff is really small stuff. Many of our problems, many of our concerns, many of our fears are first world problems. Not that big of a deal if we see them a little bit in perspective. And then, yes, as I mentioned before, to have someone to talk with, someone to share with. Doing the same here. I have a clergy support group, 2 active clergy, 2 retired. It's so good to know there are others out there who have some of the same experiences, some of the same struggles, some of the same joys, the sharing life, just knowing, oh, I'm not the only one who worries. I'm not the only one who feels like whatever is going on. That feels already really good. Another thing that I learned from the 12-step program is, and we all know that wisdom, don't we? The letting go and letting God, or handing it over. Kind of, it's not all in my hands, my life not. It's often more than we deal with, than we can deal with. And when we get in that situation, like figuring out what is it that I can influence and do something about, and what are the things that I cannot control. They're not in my hands, and then hand that over. You know the serenity prayer, serenity to accept. So what are we all invited to just accept, because we cannot do a thing about it? Give me the serenity, and give me the courage, yes, to face what I am and am called to face, and then the wisdom to understand the difference. I was really touched and moved when Peterson Toscano last Sunday morning shared about Quakerism. And it reminded me about a quote from Blaise Pascal, a wisdom teacher, mathematician, theologian, one of those people, Renaissance people, who were very broad and very deep. And Blaise Pascal said, many of our problems, and I think he meant as well individual problems as well as communal problems, stem from the inability of a human person, or of us individual humans person, to be able to sit in solitude and in silence by ourselves. So being able to quiet down, sit in quiet, in solitude and peaceful. And isn't it when we are at peace that the world looks just a little bit differently? We encounter it very differently when we are more centered and at peace. As if we're going out all in a frenzy, all in a tizzy, and trying to do. So Worries, fears, concerns, phobias. What do we do with them? How do we worry a little bit less? There is, whoever promised you a worry-free life, that's advertisement. It's not real. You know that. How can we take it a notch down and say, yes, there are concerns. There are always challenges of life. There's always something we gotta face. But isn't there the greater promise, the greater wisdom that our faith tradition talks about, the experiences of the people from the Bible who faced hardships beyond what we can ever imagine and dream of? Think the people in Egypt in slavery, tied up, abused. God set them free. There is freedom beyond worries, freedom beyond confinement, freedom when you feel like tied down, shackled up, not able to move. The Spirit of God is promised to us to move us, to set us free. The people of God in Babylon, in exile, far away from home, hopeless, crushed. Jeremiah writes to them and says, you know what? God intends to give you a future with hope, gives you a future with hope. It does not just come right now and right here, but when you look at the big arc, at the bigger picture, we have a God who cares, a God who walks with us through the challenges, through the valleys. We have a God who can transform even death into resurrection, even when things fall apart, to reassemble and transform them. So, I think that is what our faith is about. That's our foundation, our grounding. And to that speak so many scripture passages, like Paul in his letter to the Philippians. In the 4th chapter, 6 and 7, it says, do not worry about anything, but bring everything, all your concerns, all your worries, with thanksgiving to the living God, knowing that the peace of God, which passes our understanding, will keep our hearts rooted and grounded in the living God. So where is our foundation? Where are our roots? What holds us up? Can we fall back on that and be rooted and grounded in that? Susie, that's how I call her, many years ago in a previous congregational setting. Her husband had died. Her daughter was struggling. She was in her early 80s, and it didn't look so well for her. And often she couldn't fall asleep. And often she woke up at night, concerned and worrying about it. And I asked her, Susie, what are you doing when you can't sleep? And Susie said, you know what I do? I start counting blessings. And she started very close by. She felt her body and that she had a comfortable and warm bed. Thank you for that. And that she was able to move and get up, and that she had food and had a home, and that she had family, and that she had friends, and that she had. And she started counting blessings, until she fell asleep. What do you tend to worry about? And what is one thing you will do this week about it?